so bad.
Yeah, Chris, you gotta watch your language now.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. Rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
We have Kate Wilson here, Megan Wick, present, Kathy Grant is here, present, Arthur Carr, present, Tiana, present. Sarah is not, she may join virtually later, and Christopher Wilson,
Present.
also present, Adam Burrows, and Lloyd Johnson. Not to leave it.
I think you have to pose like when you drop it. You have to like do something funny.
Oh, gee.
Oh, God. Just leave it.
I'll get it. I made the mess.
Okay, well, recite the Voluntown Board of Education mission statement. Voluntown Board of Education's mission is to provide our students the skills essential to reach their highest potential in a safe environment for learning as they aspire to become responsible, respectful, and civic-minded members of society. We commit to help educate, challenge, and inspire each child to excel as lifelong learners who can adapt constructively in an ever-changing, multicultural, and technological world. Do you have any citizens' comments? None received. We have no guests here because it was on the online.
Next month, we'll have the new teachers as guests.
Right, so instead of this month, we'll have the new teachers for October.
Because this week we had the open house.
Right, so there's the open house this week, so they
It's a
stayed
lot.
late for that. Yeah. Well, the agenda looks pretty straightforward here. There's a lot of first reading policies, but after looking at them, they're kind of regulatory of nature, but we can look at that. Hopefully we can do what we need to do to get through those. And wrap this welcome back to school meeting up. Now, is Amy joining us today or not today?
She said she was going to go over, I'm not sure why she was delayed.
That's okay, just wanted to just make sure. Yeah, well, what we'll do is we'll review the consent agenda. Did everybody have a chance to take a look? And any questions, or do we have a motion to approve it as presented? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? None heard. Motion passes. Okay, we have administrative reports. We'll move to item number 2, the Director of Student Services, Mr. Johnson. Thank you for joining us. Happy school year.
Okay.
You can start. We'll keep the momentum rolling so you can put our stuff down.
We had a very good start to the year. We're really pleased with the work Amy has done to change schedules and assign people in a very effective manner. As you know, we've added a Spanish component. Amy will talk more about that. But we made sure that all the teachers were aware of the youngsters' IEPs and 504 accommodations. And we had a couple of brief meetings with the staff, and people were off to a very good start. We did have a challenge placing a student. I had 2 of our high schools turn me down, and I'm not pleased with that. But we have successfully placed the student, and so I think the young person have a good year. Then a little bit of a frustration in the first week. And I think we're off for a little bit. Any questions? Please.
Yes.
Chris.
Could you very generally please explain a bit about how high schools can turn down students and what some criteria are?
Sure. There were 2 separate reasons. One, the particular program this student needed The high school has the program, but they were very much at capacity, as was explained to me, with the staff they had, the space they had, and the fact that this was a end of August application. The other high school felt that they didn't have the resources to get that many hours in the high school schedule for the student. I think also we suffered from the fact that it was very late in the summer. We didn't have an opportunity to have people get together, get to know the person, the student, and hopefully make a better decision. But when something like this happens the first week of school, you're really just, okay, the paper was too strong as far as what the child needed for what they were willing to do. And then the third high school we have accepted the student will start tomorrow. So, but those were the reasons. You know, this is sort of inappropriate for me to say, but the shame is if the child's address had been that particular community, the child would have started, they would have figured it out. But because we're a partner school, it's they have the right to, at this point, they have the legal right to say no. So.
And is that a timing issue as well?
A lot of it was a timing issue. You know, when you get 2 inches of paper the week school starts, or the few days before school starts, it makes it challenging. If you've got lead time from the end of June to prep people, have them meet the student, and get a feel for where the student is at this time, not when the paper was generated, you know, earlier last year, maybe the decisions would have been different. But, the school that accepted the student apologized for having to take a couple of days, but as the associate director said to me, I had 8 of them on my desk, and they just needed time to figure out what each child needs and what program would be best for the different children. Sometimes timing is a factor.
Now, the school that this child is attending, it sounds as though that's not the child's first choice. Is that something that can change next year, or is, okay?
What we would do next year with the parents' interest would be to, again, reach out to the 2 schools. We'd have more up-to-date data regarding the abilities that the child has shown this particular year of school. It's not the first year of high school, you know, I agree with you. I really want parents to have children in the schools that like to see them in, you know. And so
I
it's
feel like these kids are lucky to have you, because a lot of parents would just be out there kind of waving in the wind and not even understanding the process without somebody to kind of get them through it. So thank you.
And we try to make sure that the parents know everything that, interestingly, I had a meeting with Amy started something new that I really like. She set up meetings monthly with the special education staff and the para-educators to work together on things of common interest and to work on training. And one of the things, something came up, and I got on my soapbox, and I said to them, I said, the most important thing I do as we meet a family is to listen carefully and do as much as we can to help the child, because my job is to build trust. If you have trust going on in a school district between parents and staff with the child needs, as a regular education child or a child with needs, then the only person that benefits from that is the child. But when the school people are like this, and the lawyers are walking in, you're doing all this other junk, and I've been in a situation where I inherited that kind of stress, and I found out why. I started sitting in on the preschool meetings, and I saw the attitude of one of the leaders, and I modeled a more listening and sympathetic and empathetic kind of personage. Because once you've got the person's trust, they will work with you no matter what challenge comes across the table. And you know, it works here. And Amy does the same thing. She really works with me. And this guy over here, he allows us and fosters us to be the kind of people we want to be with kids. We have a very good team, I think, really. Thank you for the question.
Any other questions for Dr. Thompson? Sounds like things are getting resolution, and obviously it's a transition back to school, and it's good that all the teachers are coming up to speed with all the various plans and so forth. So that's obviously important to in-house, you know, what we're doing out of house. But thank you for doing both sides of it.
Amy's done a good job of choosing new teachers. I had one of our new hires at her first meeting, on a meeting I had today. I was very impressed with this young person's poise, presentation of the child at the meeting, and we have and are continuing to build a really good staff that care about the kids and the parents. It's good.
Okay, well, thank
On time. So a couple of key things that we had this past year, we started, well, I started for my staff. We had popsicles on the playground. We invited families in. We had a lot of younger families come with their kids so they could play and get to see everybody. A lot of people ordered spiritware. They met our PTO again. We had some backpacks donated but from Gigi's Country Barn. G's, yeah, Country Barn, which was great. She came and we handed those out, so that was a lot of fun. Open house we had this past week. Some of you were there. Some of you no longer come. YSB did a great job. They had Kona Ice come, so that was awesome. The kids were very excited about doing their own slushy things with lots of syrup and stuff. Yeah. We had most of our high schools came. Maybe I think two weren't able to attend, but we had a great turnout there. We actually had one of our students who's at NFA this year was there with NFA, so it was good because kids recognized him. So that was really nice to have him there. We cranking out teas. I love Pat from over there. She's great. So she does all our spirit. She came again. She had all her racks out. She had her sale. So I love to support her, and she does so much for us. When I need stuff, she will get it for us. She cranks it out. She's like, "Tell me your order. I'll get it for you." So she's great. We had a really good turnout for those things. We implemented Spanish, so that is well underway. Our 6th through 8th graders get Spanish 5 days a week. So they should be speaking Spanish by the time, hopefully, they leave Voluntown a little bit. So it's really good. It's been a really nice addition to have another part of our schedule. Soccer is good to go. We have Trey Han and Kristen Pellenin. So they are very excited. They're ordering gear. They want polo shirts and all these things. I'm like, go see Pat, cranking out tea, she made you a shirt, So it's really fun to have that back in way and have your kids participate and be part. Kids just want to be part of something. So it's just nice. Whether you're good or bad, it doesn't matter. You're part of something. So it's really nice to have that. We are working through our PBIS this year. Andrea Kelly and Rachel Sahu really are the contacts and spearhead for that. So this will be our working year. We've started talking a little bit about the language with our kids. So we created the acronym SOAR, so it's like strive for excellence, own your behavior. A is attitude, and I think R is respect for, it's like a whole matrix of this. So that will be fine-tuned this year, but we started talking a lot about that, especially media literacy. We have books floating in our library now that have to do with that, so we'll continue to work with that and I'll fully implement it next year.
And just remind us the acronym, PBIS.
Positive behavior extension sports.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get a little lost, right?
One of the things that I did want to share is I did put together our STAR from this past year, our STAR report, and SBAC, so those came out, and those were actually really early this year, so that was great. Those we send to parents get a copy, and then they go off to the sending high schools, and then we keep in kids' files here, copy. But I'm gonna pass around just this so you can see it. So this was our end of the year score. We're in the middle of benchmarks right now. We do that in September, so that's just something that won't be ready until the next meeting. If anybody wanted to see fall data, we know kids come back with the summer slide, so they'll come back in a little low and then hopefully get pumped up over the year. The SBAC scores were released publicly. Those, I believe, are on the state site. You can find those. But you can see those are cool. We went over this last time because there was the color coding and the cohorts of grades and how kids travel through grades and what it looks like. It's interesting, we are very small, so I just want to be cautionary in how, in the information that I share. It could be very identifiable, and I don't want to do that. But depending on the cohort and the grade level, there are intricacies at each grade level that make it unique to how they score and the movement of kids in and out of the grade level. So some grade levels we might lose 2 or 3 kids, and then others we might be upped. We might have 3 kids come into a different grade level. So that does vary our scores on both ends for STAR and SBAC. What we did this year already was Andrea, Kelly, and I are working on an item analysis on our STAR, which then correlates to our SBAC. So we are going through the items where our kids struggle. Let's say, Common Core Standard 1.17, informational literacy, nonfiction text, so things like that nature, and looking at the bulk of where they were low to then what are we doing in class to kind of pump that up, and then hopefully we'll see the results as we take those assessments. Same thing with SBAC, we're going through where maybe so we did a lot of curriculum work at the end of June. So where in our curriculum do these pieces fit in, and where do we need to add some more pieces? We're going through year 1 of math. So that's going to be a hard change for K through 6. K through 5, 6 is still using Jackie's Hoover. So they're still using that series. But K through 5 is using Eureka, so it's a lot more hands-on.
Is 5? Because
5 uses
she
Eureka.
said something during, okay,
Yeah.
they're doing Eureka.
Yeah. But you can see the hands-on approach, even at the 5th grade level. There's a lot more collectively done for math, which really, for kids who struggle with the concept of math, it's much better. It's a little bit more hands-on. So we'll see how that, pans out for us. It's really not till almost year 3 implementation of a program to get really good, good results. So those are just some things to see. And
can you refresh my memory on how we read this?
how you read this one?
Yeah, this is SBAC, you said?
This is all kids 3 through 7.
Yeah.
So green and blue are your top tiers.
Okay.
Yellow is like your approaching tier. And then red is your tier that needs.
Okay. So is that saying that in 3 through 7, 30% of our students are not where they should be? Is that what it says?
This is saying, so 29% and 20%. So 30.
So 50% are under average.
50
for
would be
English learners.
50 or above, like at or
50 or
above.
above
And
and 50
then
or below.
50 would be at.
But is
based
that
on
like
SBAC.
average? That's the average of SBAC, not the average of?
That's the score, the scores, right?
Okay.
So kids will score either 3 or 4s. So they'll score 1, 2, 3, or 4. 3 and 4 being at or above,
Okay.
2 being approaching.
But what are you approaching? Like, what is the threshold?
So it's a number range
Okay.
in the grade level. So like if you were to look at your scoreboard that you get to home and you see on the back side,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, like 2,500, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it says like, this is the cutoff for that.
Okay.
It might be
So,
2,000.
but it's not the average of, like, the average elementary, like they don't have, a lot of time they
You
have
mean
like
like a norm?
benchmark, like a
Like a
benchmark or
norm?
norm, right, where it's
I'm
like
gonna say yes.
percentile.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, is it a percentile? Are these percentiles or no? Like,
You're saying
So
50% of,
so say your average student is at 50 percentile. Is it saying 50%
not.
below and 50% above? You don't have to get too far into it, I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like,
I don't think it reads like
yeah,
that.
okay.
How would you explain that, how it reads?
You mean, yeah, that's
This one right here.
Isn't it this one, yeah,
Yeah, because
That's
this,
that one.
from what I understand, this is our students.
3 through
Yeah,
7.
3 through 7.
Right, I mean, and there was 102 tests
Mhm.
that were taken.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That for grades 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7
Yep.
took, so a total of 102,
Correct.
right? So 29% out of 100%.
9% out of 100%.
Yeah, so 29
Are
are,
drastically below.
well, they don't,
Well,
it's drastically
Well,
below.
it's so
It's
not
below what we'd
approaching,
like them to
right,
see,
not
right,
approaching.
Right,
So
whether you want
like
them in
my
the
mind,
yellow, then to the green, and then to the.
Because they have like
blue.
low average and then they have below, right? Like in some of the tests, right, low average and below. So like a
So
red
that's,
would be
this
below.
drives intervention, this is where,
Okay.
this is like,
I guess my question is this normal? Is this?
You're gonna see a color scale on
Right,
lots of, yes.
I mean, in terms
Yes.
of like, is 29% like
like 50%
something-
below or approaching and 50% above, is that like compared to other schools, is that what you typically see?
I don't know, they don't have that reported here,
Okay.
so we don't have a comparative, from my seat.
We're gonna see this, which is a comparative.
Yeah, the thing is that this is the first test for the STAR, so this is the baseline for the year, and they're gonna take it 2 more times.
Well, this
And-
SBAC,
and,
she's
yeah.
talking about
We will
SBAC
come
here.
back, right, and we will go over that again so that we can measure growth, and each student receives, some instructional objectives to make sure that that is properly addressed.
What we really wanna look at is if you scored in red, you're not going to green. You might go
Correct, right, you
red
might
to
go yellow,
yellow,
hopefully.
right, hopefully, right, and then you might go yellow to green, right, it takes a long process to get there. But those are the kids that, we're looking at now, like, who are they, what needs do they have?
Do you guys get access to like what grades this is broken down into?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
They get it all down to
Okay,
the macro,
okay.
micro, macro.
To the
Yeah.
micro, like, right, specifically to each child and.
And you also need to keep in mind, this tests all kids.
Yeah,
So you may have
Yep.
some kids in there with a learning disability
Correct.
in math.
Right.
It's normal for them to be in the red.
right,
And they're receiving intensive assistance. And we also have students that are receiving other intervention, regular education intervention. But math or reading happens to be a specific weakness for them,
It's remarkable, it's 5 grades and it's 100 kids, and to that point, maybe, there's 15 people that are, that are supposed to be at a different level, but are taking the same test as is, and.
Which is in many ways, it's unfair and unfortunate to those particular kids, because sometimes they're taking this test that isn't really equipped for them,
Do these count numbers show the specific kids, say for the green here on this summative, it says 29% and the count 30. Does that mean 30 of the kids were in the 29, were in the green area?
Yes, I'm gonna assume yes.
And if so, like science, it's,
Yeah, so it's actually 5 and 11, 8.
really, that's like 60%,
Yeah, so
Below.
8 of our kids,
50%. I mean, how does this
Yeah.
compare with the,
it's a small number, so our 8th grade group,
it is a small number.
their results
15
aren't here, right, it's only 15 tests, exactly, so makes it very small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Science
Throw it a
is
little bit, yeah.
22.
And this is
Yeah.
what SBAC of now.
This is a nationally,
Really
exactly.
remember that this
Yeah.
is like just one.
But
small
even the
measure.
math, I mean, it breaks down the kids that are doing well and the kids that are doing excellent. So I don't see how and you could explain this better maybe, a few folks with intellectual disabilities or whatever taking the test would skew the results when they're reported specifically in the red with the count to begin with. It shows 25% people were, I'm looking at math now, we're in the red. So 25 and 22, that's what, 48% that are below in math.
I think what's really meaningful is that this, I think the STAR testing is pretty
Yes.
meaningful. I would say
the results
very
because you're not
meaningful
looking
to
at
what
averages across the whole group.
they're
But it
doing.
explains why some of the kids in that
Well,
red
that's why
area
I
are in
really
the
looking
red
at
area.
it.
It's an
rolled up,
area
this
of
is
need
not
for them that's being
Yeah.
addressed.
And
But we
you-
can't see it broken out because
can't
it's
see
too
it broken
small,
out, too
right?
small.
Yeah, but the
So-
STAR testing is really,
Right.
Yeah.
looks at
I was gonna
distinct
say,
skills.
with looking at this, though, we have a total of over 60 kids that have IEPs or 504s in pre-K through 8. So it's a big number. Half of them are in special needs or something. Over 50% of them are, if you look at the IEP numbers and the 401 plans, 504 plans, that need extra help.
That is also a pre-K that starts at 3,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
third grade, but it's relative. I think it's a good point,
We
you
have
know,
a lot of kids getting help.
higher than some other
It
towns.
helps
Yeah, higher than
Amy and the
some-
staff quickly identify which youngsters will want to make sure who are in the mainstream, who are not, that don't have an IEP, need some extra help in order to catch up to grade level, so to speak.
And that's what's great about our system is that, I mean, we've got small classrooms, we've got this data, they get their evaluations, and obviously the STAR is like, I mean, you might want to share more about STAR, but I mean, this is real information for teachers to take and help with the what I need
It's
period.
very specific, you know, for what we use it for. It's very specific in identifying, when you look at your own class, like, where did they come from? You know.
And you know, it doesn't show anecdotally, I hear how well prepared Voluntown students are in science when they get to post-second, like, and to get into high school. I hear that not just from the school I work at, but many different schools. So it's like anecdotally, there's a lot of information that is not represented here.
Yeah.
You know, how well prepared they are.
And we were always told how wonderful our kids are.
Yeah.
Or they email us, like in the first 2 weeks of school, how sad they are they're gone, because it's not, you know, what they thought it was gonna be, right? Like, it's not, you know, it's,
Did this in 8th grade,
Yes,
did
yeah.
this in 7th grade, did this in 7th, yes, that's great.
yeah, somebody
How
emailed
high
us.
schoolers are like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, I understand this chemistry, but nobody seems to understand it at all.
And that is true, and one child emailed somebody recently and said, I just can't do it, it's just so boring, I wish I could come back, I want to go back. But like, those are the things where, you know, you think you're not doing enough, and then they turn around and say, you know, that. But, so those are just some things I just wanted to share. I don't have anything for fall benchmark yet, because we're in that testing period. There are some things coming up, so 8th grade's going on a trip tomorrow, they're going to Ness. We have a couple, we have Picture Day, September 17th, that's coming up, and then our book fair and family night is scheduled, so we're all set for that.
The testing, there's a second part to the testing. And I just wanted to mention that this is the baseline. And so as we give the first test this year, and there's going to be 3 of them, we monitor students' growth and implement appropriate instruction. This is the SPAC test results as compared with our DERC. And this is a report that I've been giving out for a number of years and comparing how we did. Now, please note that prior to the pandemic, we were usually number 1, 2, or 2 with English language, art, math, and science. And then as you can see, 22, 23, there was a bit of a change. And we came in like 5th in English language arts in 22, 23. You can see where we were with math and then with science. Now, this past year, our reading just went down a little bit, but please look at the scores overall, because there was a change in the scoring. So the state, if you look at, reading in 22-23, the state had 63.9, and last year it went down to 48.9. So there was a little bit difference in the scoring, but strategically, how did we compare with the DERG? And as you can see, last spring, the state was at 48.9 in their English language arts, and Voluntown scored 48.2. In math, the state average was 44.1, and Voluntown scored 51.8. And then for science, the state scored 48.5. And you'll notice that there's no score for Voluntown. And as I looked through all of the scores, there were towns that did not get a score. There was some of the smaller towns, and there was something within the state scoring that they did not report that, but they did report an overall performance index for science. So then with science, our overall performance for last year was 63. The year before, it was 63. And the year before, it was 65. That's an arbitrary number that the state sets a goal with, but that's how our scores developed. And, I think that they might come out with more information regarding the science, but then we set our goals and objectives with this for the year, and there's the instructional committees that are meeting, and as they have their professional development days, they look at the different item analysis on each one of these, and they see what kind of instructional strategies and areas that they want to help the students develop. So yes, there was a learning loss based on some of the things that were happening with COVID. But at one point, I heard an average of about 20% for some of the state. We did not get that 20%, but last year there was a change within the scoring, but everybody went down. And then I tried to
Not everybody.
And not as much as we did. This is not good news for us. This is not good news for us. How much
No,
we slipped comparatively.
and this sets the instructional goals and objectives.
Especially with us being in the classroom during COVID, we should probably not have lost as much.
Well, we did not lose as much, but other districts wound up even having some other challenges. But we have our work cut out for us within the curriculum committees, and as we implement ideas and other things, that will certainly help. I tried to give some of the surrounding towns what was happening down below. If there's a letter next to the town, now we're in Durg F, and those are the 17 towns that are in Durg F. The Durg is determined by economic status, needs of students. There's about 16 variables that they use. And as you can see, if you're comparing down below, how well schools did in comparison with us. Some people like to look at neighboring towns, Preston with their, English language arts scored 55 last year. With math, they scored 45, and then they had their science, and they did well in the science. They scored 71. You can take a look at this, but this is part of setting the agenda for this year's curriculum development and professional development, and for the approaches that we use to help students. Now, please remember, in the past, we've wound up having no tier 3 math students because we've always done well with that. But we'll have to investigate each one of these areas and see how we did. Are we happy with these? No, then this sets the tone for developing instructional objectives, and this is going to be a main type of thing that we have to look at, and then we'll see how we do again with the tests that are given again in March. But this is the nature of what's happening.
For how many years has it been on the computer? Has that happened for a little while, or has it just been a couple of years that it's been on the computer and not on paper?
As back on the computer.
Probably been a couple of years.
3, because I don't.
SBAC?
I think-
Yeah,
I think
SBAC's been a while on the
Yeah.
computer, at least 5, I would say,
Yeah.
3 to
I
5.
think she was a first class.
Yeah,
That was hard.
Right, and that's why I
It's
was,
really hard for them to type, and it was not, don't.
it's still, I mean, there's no amount of
Yeah,
preparation
but you're
for
still
your
not gonna
young.
see 22, a change in ELA from 70.5 in 21 to 22 to 48.2.
I mean, that's still not really.
it's just we drop below the state average, like anytime you drop below the state average,
Yeah.
it's kind of.
It's, I mean, and we were surprised, that was our second year of the state-required program
Oh.
that we purchased, and we changed our whole, our
So many
whole
factors.
ELA
I
path.
get that, but this
you
is
know.
not.
So that's, I'm not saying that I'm not a fan of the program, but there are a lot of good other practices that we had prior to adopting what they're requiring and,
Nothing aligns.
So we do, we've talked, we have a game plan of what, hopefully will work for us, and work for our kids. So it's really about our kids and getting them prepared and making sure that our ELA SBAC, it moves up in the ladder, that's our main concern. And fine tuning the program that we're using, because it's not, one canned program is not the be all end all for good instruction.
And how is obviously you're just a couple weeks into the new math program, how is in-service and all that how are the teachers adjusting to the new program?
They like it. It's a lot of planning because it is a lot more hands-on. So kids are like really touching manipulatives and doing those pieces. So they definitely like it. But with any program, you're learning it for the first year yourself while you're implementing it with kids. So you're learning it. You've had the PD, you've done all those things, but now you're actually doing it. So it's fine-tuning that.
Yes, but I need to go back to what Megan was pointing out. Yes, English language arts was 70.5, and we went down to 48.2 for the score. But remember, the scoring, I believe, has changed. In the performance index overall, in my thing, we went from a 71 performance index to a 65 performance index, which is another score that we're investigating. So even though there was such a big difference from the 70 to the 48, the performance index dropped 6 points.
Right, but if you look at all the other towns and compare the other towns to themselves, nobody else dropped 22.
Yes.
Right,
Well, that's
so
why
we can talk around it, but there's obviously a big
I
difference, right?
don't want to talk around it, I'm just pointing out
No,
numbers.
I've heard you, I got that.
And we need to set our instructional goals
Yep.
within the curriculum committees for
I get it,
us.
I get what you're saying, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
year,
so,
year over year, nobody else
We
slipped
dropped
that
from
much.
number 1 to number 10.
Yeah, that something's wrong regardless of your calculation or equation or whatever it is.
There's some in our Dirk F, Dirk E seems to be pretty.
So Amy, if you had to give us 2 sentences in layman's terms of what the issue is, what would you tell us? I mean, you're immersed in this all day, every day.
It's hard to say what exactly it could be. I mean, you could list 1,000 reasons why you could have apathetic kids on that day. Some of our scores lacking were our upper school, but that's not their in-class performance. So there's that. I think going through this, adopting this program, we're building wide, adopting a program. We used a program that we had for almost 10 years that people were very in tuned with. And there are still pieces that we use, and we still use Haggerty and Foundations, and that's huge for us because we don't want to let that go because we know that works for kids. So those are some components there. I do think that we have to raise the level of expectation of kids, when they're in school and when they're out of school on what they're doing and completing and, and what we expect of them as they get older. I think so, and think from COVID, and I hate always referring to COVID, but from then, you can see definitely, a different and a change in the mentality about school, when we've been online and that. But I think the bottom is it's just feet to the fire. You have to get your eyes in books and you have to do the work. You have to do the hard work. The kids have to do hard work. They want it easy. They're little, they want it easy. Or they're middle school, they want it easy. And it's not easy. Learning to read is hard. It's hard for kids. So hopefully, we'll do a lot more writing. That seems to be a struggle too. Kids want to, they want to type, they want to get it done, they want to turn it in. So that's one huge piece that we're working on too is writing. So hopefully that helps improve vocabulary development. That's a big one on type tests like this. It's vocabulary. If you don't have an expanded vocabulary, a lot of that is hard. Grammar, like a lot of it's grammar, and those types of things.
I think culturally, in a lot of ways, you're up against it. When we grew up, we sent and received letters, for instance.
Yeah.
So now everything's keyboards. There are abbreviations and emojis instead of articulating what you wish to say.
Or looking at somebody and having a conversation, like that's still English language, that's still, how you learn and how you write, right? And you speak. So all those pieces and components, are we happy with this? No. I mean, when we saw our expert, we were like, this is ridiculous. So what are we doing and changing? We've talked about it. And so hopefully that helps. I think it's a lot more help for kids now when dyslexia, reading disabilities, that's so much more apparent today than it was 10 years ago, So
Yeah, which is even more, right, like with the amount of,
we think it takes them a long time to
but
read
the amount
and
of
then.
special education services we provide, right, we don't deny students the services that they need, like, it's still just something, it should not, you know what I mean, it just shouldn't.
It
just should not be this.
Super surprising, just because of all the work we've done with H&H and all those pieces. So one of the things that we are doing is, through the Right to Read grant, we have a coach coming in for the actual program, so that is paid for by the grant, so that coach will come in. There are coaching licenses that will be assigned to especially our beginning teachers, so they'll get that coaching and support. With the program, the things that maybe we don't know or that we could do different or better. So that'll happen over the next year also. So that's one of the strategies that we're using to really try to implement and use the program to the best that it can be.
How long have we had that new program?
This is our third year right now. So these are our past 2 years we've used it. We don't like to correlate.
If there's a pattern, we may have to make a hard decision and
It's not a decision.
buy something else. I mean, if it helps the students learn, we need to cut
You know,
losses.
We didn't have a choice.
Right, K through 3.
No.
Yeah, and so we wanted to
But
be
these are
consistent.
3 through 8, right?
Those are
that
3 through
one-
But we adopted
Right.
that program to be consistent throughout our
Right,
building.
Yeah.
Instead of having this program, Right, so K through 3, and so that was the driving force in having a consistent program for everybody collectively. Same language, same types of questions, and those pieces. But I am happy to come back to the board next time. We'll talk about things that we've done the past month, based on benchmark testing, what's happening, what's going. You know, we can keep talking about it every month and see, as we progress.
That's all we can do.
Yeah,
Thank
are they
you.
kind of
Urgency is
trained
great.
in how to take the test? I'm sure there's test taking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we do interim assessments because it is, that's also a skill. You have to know how to take this particular test. Third graders need to know how to type. They need to know how to pay attention to the actual Chromebook. They use tools on it that you have to use a trackpad to use some of the math tools on there. So that's hard for them. We try to get mice, the old school, and just because it's hard for them to use a trackpad to do that. Or they have to use their arrow keys. It's hard for any of them, those who are less savvy. So that's, that's a
How do third graders type? I can't imagine.
They are
you
hot
have
and packed typers. It's
a
like-
typing class.
Yeah, they do type in media literacy. They do keyboarding once a week.
You'd be amazed, Christopher. You'd be amazed.
They'd probably be better if it was a thumb typing, to be honest. They probably would be better this way.
Yeah.
But
Lunch and packing like crazy in my household. Well, thank you for that update, and it's.
Sorry, it was a difficult one to give.
no, I mean,
It is what it is.
it is what it is. I mean, we don't like it either, so it's not. One of the other things was this kind of side from testing. Last time when we were here, Didi gave you the updated Chromebook loan agreement. Do you want to move forward with that? We haven't sent it out yet. Wanted the board to look at it. You made a suggestion last time to increase the amount. I will say it is unfortunate, but a lot of these Chromebooks do get damaged because there's no sense of it's mine and, I'm using it or borrowing from the Board of Ed for the school year. We replace a lot of screens. We replace a lot of backs that get popped off on purpose. Those types
I
of
wasn't
things.
here during the last meeting, but I mean, what if somebody, like a parent refuses to sign this, do you not send a Chromebook home? I mean, what is?
I typically, I would never, if somebody needed to do their work on that, but we do, they at least receive the form, like, this is what we expect, when you're here. It's hard because if your child's using it in school and it breaks in school, well, who's watching and using it? But the hope is that this, helps our kids not damage
It
them.
looks really like the Griswold one.
It is, yes, it is.
The marine magnet one,
Yeah.
it's almost word for word.
Yeah.
Copying it.
It's very similar.
Mhm.
And so we did model after Griswold and offered, an insured, they self-insure, like, for whatever, like $30 or something like that, like if something happens. Mr. C's been replacing a lot, as we've even started this year, a couple of screens already. So that incurs a cost, so that's a cost that has to be paid for, in order to get that fixed.
Do they have protective cases that go around them? That they come
Those
home
squishy
with?
ones. They can take them home.
Yeah.
It's like a little squishy case. But they can take it home. If they do or they don't, that's another thing. But we do have those, yeah.
The insurance, I imagine, would be through a third party. But
Well,
would we get a piece of every bit of that?
I think the way
That'd be a good way to go.
I think the way the insurance works is that the parents, they'll pay let's say $20. The last board meeting, they suggested it'd be a little bit more, so I changed it, so it can be changed to whatever. And then we house that, and then as we have to purchase, it comes through that piece. And, right, because a Chromebook is $300,
Right.
a damaged Chromebook. People will send us checks and say, I'm so sorry, because it broke, somebody stepped on it, shut it in a locker. I mean, sometimes they switch Chromebooks, so like they're on a cart, and so that's a little tricky when it's not your Chromebook or your number. We're able to track that because we know who's logged in, follow that on the screen, so try to really pinpoint.
You want this approved?
Well, I just want to know if this is something that you want to do,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
the incurred cost of replacing a lot of these now, it's getting up there. The keypads, like I said, keypads, screens, they pop the back off. I mean, they're like literally hanging on by like one connector cord.
Should we make it 50 instead of 30?
Huh?
Should we make it 50
Well, this
instead of 30?
is if you want to take insurance though, it's not if you
No, this is $300 for.
Yeah, no, I think he's talking about the insurance
Make
option.
the, the 30,
It's 30.
it's.
Yeah, that's usually the going rate.
Yes,
is
30.
Somewhere between 20 and
35.
35.
Does this need to be updated too, or am I reading that incorrectly? It says 30 students submit the $20.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
Did
Okay.
they both say 30?
I think so,
Yeah.
right? Okay. That's under
Yeah,
first
on the
and
back.
second bullet.
There's a couple places I mentioned 30 and 20.
Yeah, the difference in that, yep.
It should both say
Yeah,
either
30,
20 or 30.
And you're okay with 30? That's, I
Yeah.
put that.
That seems reasonable.
So if a kid has a Chromebook that is having issues, do they just submit it and they submit it to their teacher?
So let's say like, they come and they say, my shift key isn't working anymore. And those normal things happen, like to Chromebooks. So that's not something we're charging for, it's like a key not working. And then they'll go see Mr. C, he might swap them and give them a new Chromebook, change out their number, fix the old one, maybe the old one's a reserve now. So those types of things that, he fixes a lot.
But if you dropped it in the pool.
But that's not under the $30, that's something separate.
Yeah, so that would be something that he would just
Yeah.
fix in general.
So this is above and beyond the
This is
normal
like
wear and tear.
above and beyond normal wear and tear, which we see a lot of, so that's kind of why, at this point, I feel like it would
necessary,
behoove us to
I think it's a
have
good
something in
idea.
place. Yeah. We are not a school that allows your own device, so that's the only way to really,
Oh, they can't bring their own Chromebook?
because we have no way of monitoring what's
Yeah,
happening on
yeah,
that
on
Chromebook, while they're in our building.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why.
That's the same for a lot of the schools that we
Yeah.
see, so.
Yeah.
Proceed, I don't think we need to vote on it or anything, so we're just.
If you're okay with that, then I just wanted to make sure you're okay with that.
It'll probably be out tomorrow.
Well, they will be out tomorrow, yeah.
Right, I mean, I just
Yeah,
think
you
we
just need to change
people-
the date. We
People
tried.
opt for it. I know, I don't know if people
I
are
mean,
gonna opt
the
for it.
reality is there's nothing we can do if they don't give us, you know what I mean?
Correct.
So it's really only keeps the honest people
Yeah.
honest, but.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Or if you know you have an accident prone kid, like you.
You just want to pay the $30 and be like, I'm clear for the year, or.
I never get insurance on my phone. I get it on the kids' phone. Because they're on like the 4th generation since I got my phone. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Anything else that you wanted to review with us?
Nope, I think that was just the, device agreement was the last thing. that I could think of.
Any other questions, Mrs. Sepulveda? Thank you for that summary and welcome back to school and all that you do to make sure we get off to a great start. Checkbox on open house, we're all good, and continue the hard work. Okay, the superintendent support.
Okay, well, the open house was just really terrific. It's amazing how some of the high school students come back. I was having one conversation with a senior at one of the colleges, and I said, "You're getting ready to decide on a college?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "What are you interested in?" She said, "Linguistics." And I said, "So what language are you going to study in college?" She said, "Chinese." So it's very interesting that students have opportunities to move on. And we had some of our high school students coming back and helping out, visiting with the special ed room with the parents and the warm welcome people received, and students, just really being connected with their teacher already. This is students new, to our school. You have my calendar of events. It's been very busy with the opening of school. More importantly, you have the enrollment, and high school on the enrollment report is up a student since last year, and it might be a little bit higher in October. Now, as you know, October 1st is the census for the enrollment for the state. So I'll be interested to see where we are in October 1st. Now, if you look up above for the pre-K through 8th grade, it indicates 221, and last year we had 238 on that column. Of that, last year, 232 were Voluntown residents, and this year we had 213. So we have dropped 19 students, but please remember, we have cut back on, a teacher again. So we're trying to, keep a steady progress with faculty, staff, students, and we had 3 retirements last year, so, we were able to maintain, a budget that was actually level for the teachers' salaries. We've returned $8,595.88 to the town. Last year, we returned $102,192. So as money comes in, we see some things that are developing. You have a report on the asbestos. We did phase 2 this summer. It was very successful. Of the $112,742 that we received in reimbursement for the state for the oil tank project, we now have a remaining balance of $27,824. And just to let you know, when we applied for the oil tank reimbursement, we were the first school district, and the State Department was all excited for implementing a new reimbursement system. And it required myself and Rachel at the time to go to the State Department, and we completed all the new paperwork for that form. And we got back here 2 weeks later, and they called and they said, "We lost all your data." So I said, "Do we have to go back up and spend the day?" And they made a special arrangement for opening up the system so that we could resubmit the data from here. But this was a new system to get reimbursement as quickly as possible. Dated September 10th. Oh, this is September 12th. I just received the final summary report from the state on that reimbursement, confirming that we were entitled to the $112,000. I just thought that to be very interesting, but I hope that the state can improve what's happening with that. And I will tell you that many of the grants that we receive, we go directly into the grant management system. But if a grant comes in and you have to put it into the school facilities unit, you have to wait for your potential 65% reimbursement for eligible expenditures. And that still takes a number of years. I gave you a faculty staff assignment list, and you can see the various assignments that we have. We are doing okay. We still are looking for a paraprofessional, and as we develop programs for our students, we're able to readjust people right now to cover all assignments. But hopefully we will find a candidate that will bring to you by the next board meeting. We are advertising for a bus driver, and that's an interesting process because we're still short a bus driver, but we may have discovered somebody that is interested, and hopefully we can fill that position. I just wanted you to know that we received a waiver for approval for monitoring, a waiver for pesticides and other things. But this is just something that happens, that we're appropriately monitoring pesticides. With Kerma, we have them come and inspect and review things, and they just gave us a return of $1,986, which we'll return to the town because we're in compliance. You have a CAVE newsletter, and there's a professional development coming up in November for the board members. There's some policy highlights that you can review at your leisure. There's also the list of required notifications that we're supposed to send out each year, and we post these on our website. You will see some other policy highlights, but the thing is that we list those in our board agenda, and there's a number of policies that we're working with as far as keeping up with the legislation. I really think one of the things I have a CAPS, that's the Superintendent's Association, 128 pages of legislation that were passed last year. If any of you are interested in looking at that, but please note, with our policy upgrades and other things, we try to bring to you the things that the board needs to update based on legislation. Just a little tidbit. I attend the small school district superintendent meeting, and somebody asked the chair what defines a small school district in Connecticut, and it's defined as a local board of education in a town with fewer than 10,000 students, 2,000 residents, 10,000 residents, 2,000 resident students, or 3 public schools. So we do meet the criteria for a small school district. I just want you to know that there's probably 18 to 20 school districts that have part-time superintendents in the state. They're smaller school districts, and having attended meeting and even been the chair of that group for many years, they're very productive. We've been reviewing transportation needs. Now, I mentioned the bus driver, but we have the new handicap van, and we are receiving praises for that because it's all mechanical. It has the capacity that we need, and people have been very, very impressed with that. I also am making the preparations for reviewing our 9-year-old buses. And we have a number of things, so I'll be calling a transportation committee at some time to review the research that we have. But based on our budget development process, we need to come up with some numbers, probably be by the 1st of December. And of course, we have to go through an RFP if we're going to replace buses. There's different approaches to this. It could be 2 buses a year, or in the past, we replaced the whole fleet. And we replaced the whole fleet by trading in our old buses and by offering a 5-year lease purchase. And we reduced some of our maintenance costs, but this is work that the Transportation Committee will look at. I think that's it, Jake, unless anybody has any questions.
I heard a lot, Mr. Barrows, but I think we'll cover most of it and the rest of the agenda. Any questions from Adam? None heard. Thank you for the updates. Always helpful. I usually get it in the bulk of the packet, so it's always good reading. So moving to old business, we have the end of year 23-24 function object report summary.
Yes, I just gave you the last function object report of the year, and there's a sentence in there. Usually we give you the transfers and the 6-year actual expenditures, but in this room today, the auditors were in completing the annual audit, and we usually did that later in the fall. But our town treasurer requested that they come in and they complete the process a little bit sooner. So we'll have transfers and also, the actual expenditure, the 6-year actual expenditure report at the October meeting. And, but I just wanted you to receive the final budget. And we did return $10 and I think it was 32 cents to the town from last year's budget.
I think we'll talk about that more in the non-lapsing fund piece of new business, but just wanted to point that out of, what we transfer and what we ultimately give back to the town, but we also give back a large sum from the grants and so forth.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we can maybe, we'll pin that for when we discuss the non-lapsing fund, but I'm just curious if there's anything else we can keep for ourselves for educational purposes. So, okay. Well, so next month, we'll see something more specific about the six-year,
For the budget for next year.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, so we have you have the timeline. I had the strategic plan in there, Kate. So do you
want
that comes next. Oh, the budget preparation timeline, yes. There's just an adjustment. It talks about what we'll be reviewing every single month. And as I indicated, next month, it's going to be actual expenditures and 6-year history. Okay, and then the development of the 25-26 budget, which we're all actively involved with right now because there's things that are coming up that we have to plan for.
Okay. So that's number 2. We can move on to strategic plan.
Yes, each year I let the board review the strategic plan for 22-26. And within this, on December 2nd, I'd like to have a community conversation and invite about 100 community members in to review priorities and let us have some information to talk about what the next strategic plan was. The number one priority in the last community conversation we had is we want more information about the high school choice. And Tuesday night was a good example of that because all of the high schools set up stations out in the walkway coming into the building. And children who were in the lower grades went in and talked. Students who were in 8th grade certainly had a lot of information, and now they will go through the process over the next few months with selecting a high school, but that's worked out very well. I'm wondering what the next priority might be as far as some things that we could strengthen, and the community conversation does help with that.
So that's a save the date item. All right. Moving on to safety on 138. I know it's a pretty popular update, so I checked in with Tracy. She wasn't able to join us, so I always invite her to see if she has anything other to add to it, but she was tied up tonight, so she just provided a written update. But they're getting there. It sounds like they've received the signs, the devices, and the poles. If you remember back from when they originally got the clearance to do it, they're like, yeah, but you have to do all the work and do all the ordering and get all the ordinances. So just put a little more time on and burden on the town for that. So the DOT has installed the school zone signage that they are responsible for. So you might have seen that. There's at least school zone signs up. Eversource has disconnected the power in the old ones, but the town is required to remove them now that it's disconnected, but there's lock boxes. So now they have to come and help with the lock boxes because, of course, you can't get in there to take it down until the electrician gets them locked. So that's, there's an order in for that. And then the town is responsible for installing the signs, which are large and require concrete pads. So they're not super familiar in terms of installing this, so they're kind of they're researching that to be put in properly. But they hope to have the signs up by the end of the month. So, yeah, no, I would say that, but we were really hoping for the beginning of school. So at this point, we'll take what we get, and good luck to the town crew trying to get it going, and Eversource helping unlock it. But I think we should have like a lighting ceremony and
Yeah.
we should all get together and like have a bunch of kids like cross freely and like wave white flags and it'll be great. So that's the
Maybe
update.
Mr. Tallio.
Yeah, no, it's really,
He's like the statue out there.
Yeah. He's gotta be the beacon of the centerpiece of
Yep.
the picture that's being posted.
It reduces life health insurance now because the risk he takes more now.
And then, so item number 5 is the building committee.
Yes, I included the agenda for the meeting that we had on Tuesday and the minutes from the previous meeting. But more importantly, we should go over this capital improvement plan. The list of things that we've completed this summer has been absolutely amazing. And we have expended all of our ESSER funds on time and for the appropriate items. And this was supposed to be done by September 30th. Now, I'm not sure where the balance is in the state, but I do know that they sent about $900 million to the state. And the last thing I read was there's still about $150 million that isn't spent. We spent every penny, okay, on time. And this is the capital improvement plan that I want to show to you. So this summer, we completed the HVAC for the gym. We might possibly get a $10,000 rebate, which would be helpful. The central office HVAC replacement, we have a quote of $18,450. That must be done as soon as possible. You walked in, this building was freezing. My office barely has air circulation. We need an updated HVAC system in this building. As a matter of fact, in the process that they were reviewing things, this building has to be closed tomorrow because the electrical connections to it down below have to be replaced into the panel to make sure that it's safe. And when they went down there and they were checking out where they're going to get the electricity source, it required to shut down this building for a day. So that's going to be taken care of. But if you look, you can see that we finished the HVAC for the kindergarten. They're working so well. They took the window units out, but again, this was paid for by HVAC funds. It wasn't out of the school budget. And then the special ed offices were just completed this past week. And we're hopeful that we can get the central office done as soon as possible. So those were set aside funds. And then this means that with the HVAC funds, we still have $22,421 left, and the building committee is reviewing the needs of the library because that system is 36 years old, and we have been making repairs. Okay, these are big ticket items. I wrote to Tracy on that, requesting possible special allocation for the town. Fire alarm panel replacement, I put down 250 plus. Replace the generator, 127,300, and the gym sliding door, $140,000. And those are things that we're looking at the town to try to talk about ways that we could do this. I think that the town has been very helpful, and who knows, there might be some other money coming up. Each one of those items is okay for now. We have a contractor coming in, checking on the generator. The sliding door receives services to make sure the rollers and other things are still okay. And Jody Grenier and the engineers say the fire alarm system is okay, but it's old and it needs to be replaced. Now, electrical panel upgrades. And I put down 25, 26. But we may need to move that up, and the building committee, we're reviewing prices of what that costs, and we might go into an RFP and to see if we can replace that as soon as possible, because we added all of these things, and we have some electrical panels that are very old, and need to be upgraded. So this is the next thing. And then the central office needs some repairs and upgrades. A new skirt around the bottom, that ramp out front needs to be replaced. And then security check, all entrances, 11,000. So this gives the town an idea of the capital improvement plans for the school, but we have completed an incredible amount of work over the last 3 years, utilizing any ESSER funds and other types of support, and this has helped. But we did, the biggest increase in the budget was for transportation with the van and also with maintenance for the building, because we budgeted about 98,000 and we've already spent, we have a balance of about 36,000 left, because as we were going into things, we found that we needed to make repairs as we went along. The office, the school office, if you looked at the upper windows, there was moisture and water between the panels. We just had those replaced. That's from the school budget. That's not a special grant or other things. And the building committee that started because of the ESSER funds like 2.5 years ago, they are continuing now with working with that. They were appointed by the selectmen, and they're following the town procurement policy, going through the RFP process, and they've been really very, very helpful. Now, with the board, the building committee made a decision to accept the quote from New England Service and Controls in the amount of $15,560 for the Special Services Department HVAC upgrade. That needs a motion and a second to verify that the board's support of that process. And again, that was paid for by the HVAC funds.
I have a question with the building committee. So if the intent is going forward, all school building stuff is going to be going through the building committee. And I would assume that those are typically decisions that are made by the board since we have to vote on them. So normally we would have to go out, right, and get the bid, go out to bid.
Yes, but with the student services thing, I mentioned that at the July meeting. We skipped the August meeting, but rather than not have that replaced, we proceeded. And at the time, I thought I mentioned something about that this was a priority, and it was using the HVAC funds. Now remember, the building committee was appointed by the selectmen, which is part of the procurement policy. But the Board of Ed has received all of the motions from the building committee. This is one thing that we had to have done, and usually I have the board approve and verify the building committee's decision before we do that.
Right, so my question is, if going forward, the intent is school-related building things are gonna go through the building committee, but those are actually the responsibility of the Board of Education, which we have to vote on them and pass them.
Well, if you would like to change the procedure and we come into the board.
Yeah, I think if going forward, because I know you said it was kind of initially for this ESSER with the HVAC and Mystic Air and asbestos, these kind of like special projects.
Okay.
If the intent is going forward, I think we need to just understand how we're gonna be a little bit more involved in some of the transparency of that.
Who of us have time to be more involved?
Everything
At this meeting, Kathy, at this meeting, right, monthly, it doesn't have to be monthly, it could be whenever there's a big project going on, maybe we have, but I think I'm not comfortable just randomly voting on something that I have absolutely no knowledge, like we get the minutes, right, but that's not the same as being able to ask questions and see, request for quotes and things like that. If I'm putting my name on it, I just think that we as a board need to just talk a little bit going forward of what we want in terms of transparency. Maybe nobody else, if you are just happy to just, vote on it and go forward, then that's fine. But personally, if I'm gonna put my name on it, I think we need to have the conversation.
Okay, everything that we've done with the ESSER funds and other expenditures, we've had the building committee, then we've gone to the board, and we have explained that. And every one of the other motions had the Board of Ed make the final decision, verifying the building committee. We had an issue this summer with trying to get the building squared away, and we had an RFP, and we went out with that. And rather than wait to this meeting, and then probably have the AC and the HVAC put in a month or two from now, we went ahead and we did that. And I mentioned that at the last meeting, that we really should move ahead with this because it needed to be done. I hope that in the future, that we can go back to the procedure where the building committee reviews things and they make a motion, but before we implement it, the Board of Ed verifies that. Because the building committee does all of the research, all of the RFPs, and they're following the town procurement policy, and you have board representation on the building committee. So the building committee was appointed by the selectmen, not by the Board of Education. But if you look back in the minutes of all of the work that we've done, which is almost $1 million, we wound up coming to the board and having them make the decision. This student services thing was important. Now, the other thing is, and Dee Dee will have to check.
I just wanted to, I mean, we can have a discussion about that, but to your point though, Megan, it's, I think of it as like a subcommittee. It is a subcommittee.
Sure, yeah.
And we have posted, times and agendas and all the notes for it. I think it's, in my opinion, it's moving very efficiently, especially with the bidding process and having, all the work that Darlena does to get the bids, and we have a full discussion over, we bring in the people who's going out to bid.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying is just, we have previously just kind of fast-tracked everything because we need to have HVAC done for the kids with the masks, and then we want to have the asbestos done over the summer. So we've always kind of fast-tracked. So if this is going to be the platform and format going forward, I'm not saying I have an issue with that. I'm just saying we may want to reevaluate like what that process looks like. Do we, if it's, we talked about with the asbestos, right? I had a question of like, who is going to be doing the air quality test? Because, and Mystic Air was one that was selected, and I think that's great. So having the opportunity to ask questions like that, of, the people that are spearheading the project, or maybe it's something small that we're like, okay, it's not a big deal, but if it's gonna be a $250,000 upgrade to a fire alarm panel, we might wanna have more conversations as a board rather than just slapping our name and our vote on it. So it's not saying that we need to change it, I'm just saying, I think, and it doesn't have to be a conversation right now, I just think going forward, if this is the format we're going to continue to do, we do as a board have to have some decisions about, or conversations about what constitutes maybe having somebody come in and talk to us about it, right?
Right.
Like we had Jody come in, like, I just think we should talk a little bit more about that. It has nothing to do with this individual central office.
Understood, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I think just as Adam noted, the fire panel, the generator, and the sliding door, those are very, you realize they're just gonna be bigger tickets. So that's gonna be discussion with town hall and what we can do, and that will definitely be brought back to this. I mean, probably having Tracy come in and discuss, and once we come to a point where that's gonna have a plan, I mean, that's gonna probably be in the budget for the town. So, but very well heard, and I think that makes sense for, things that are, like air quality, aside from.
Right, if we're gonna put a new roof on the school, we might, we might need to have, right, like things like that, where it's not a little, $3,000 camera on the front door, right, or something like that.
Oh, believe me, Brian sent a list during our last meeting, and it was this long, and it was all this like micro font of all the things that he did from like.
I did the legwork with the research.
Yeah.
That's what they do. So when it gets to us, I see what you feel like.
Just
Well, where,
like,
how did we
let's
get
talk
to this
somebody.
point?
Correct.
Like,
Let's
can you
talk
tell
to
me how they
Jody
get-
about what
How
this
did we get
all
to this point?
means,
I think
right?
they do all that from what
Correct.
I've learned over the years.
It's the
They do
bridging
it.
of the two committees.
Yeah, I guess we're kind of like the town that says, yeah, I like that work.
Right.
Let's go for it.
So,
We skip all the minutia, basically.
Yeah,
So I was like, this is Brian's like maintenance budget, this is not building. This is not building committee, this is Brian's maintenance committee, whatever this is.
To vote on a fire alarm fee at $50,000, I'm gonna need more than like 2.5 minutes to make.
Like, we have to put our faith and trust into something.
Jack West is on that committee too, and I know him.
Yeah.
All those that are town allotments, we won't be approving, the town will.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
so
Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Kate. Sorry.
Yeah, I think,
did they approve the motion?
oh, well, okay, I think we should reflect the motion again, restate the motion.
And please note
Pretty flat.
that the whole procurement policy of the town was followed for that bid for the student services office. And
we're okay
the
with
building
that.
committee reviewed those quotes, and that was the quote that was the one that was the best. And as you can see up above, the other quote that we have was $38,700. So we went with a company that has a proven record. Now, the other thing is, and I don't have the quotes for this building, but we have a quote for the central office of $18,450 based on, and using New England Service and Controls in the, to complete this project. And I would like that to be a motion, and I will have to go back and check some of the quotes that we received. They may be in some of the minutes that I sent to you, but this was the best quote, and it was following the complete procurement policy of the town. So if it's possible for somebody to make a motion for the $18,450.
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
So then based on
Wait,
the,
hold on, any opposed?
okay,
I'll
Abstention, okay.
I'm abstaining, thank you.
then based
One
on the
abstention.
concern, I think it might be time probably to invite Jack Wesser in as the chair of the building committee and to answer any questions that you might have with regards to procedures and other things. And it also might be helpful to bring in the town treasurer so that he can, review some of the things. But a building committee is appointed by the selectmen, and the expenditure of funds, all of these HVAC funds are paid for by an account in the selectmen's office.
Thank you for the update. Yes?
Do they want to do another motion to verify the special services HVAC?
Because that one was for the,
He brought up the
Yes,
one.
that's for the central office,
That's, that one, they-
HVAC replacement.
I'll make a motion for the special services. That's
Area.
Lloyd's office, right?
yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Air conditioning and
he
heat
needs
now.
it. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm,
Any
no,
opposed?
I'm for it, I'm seeing the one that
Yeah.
we're post voting, yeah.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we are on to new business, correct? I'm just filing for papers here, I'm like, I lost my order of things for a second.
Good step.
I know. Okay, so building committee's all set, we're on to new business and slew of policies. Thank you. Thank you, Judy.
I had 2 months.
I know.
2 months of people leaving you alone.
Thanks.
So it's first readings, yes, non-discrimination, changes are italicized. This was, I believe, a smaller one.
Yeah, this is short.
Now, this must just be like the cover page to like all of these other policies, right? You have like all of these
Kind of.
Title IX.
The non-discrimination goes along with the Title IX, the sexual harassment.
I know, this is,
Yeah, this is just like a
Updated
cover line,
those.
basically.
yeah, I read through it and it's,
Yep.
Let's go ahead and prove it.
Yes,
Because
go on.
yeah, I think this is a notification
Yeah,
policy,
just
so.
kind of like a cover.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor to approve it as presented?
All right.
Aye. All, aye?
Yeah.
Any opposed? None heard, motion passes. Okay, the policy non-lapsing education fund is what I was talking about earlier. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, wait. Here it is.
We can keep some of our money?
Yes. Yes, this has been, the non-lapsing education fund has been in place though for quite some time.
Yes, we have
it
a
solved.
line in the budget for that, and sometimes the, the board has voted to carry over some funds, so for specific projects. So that if we get down to the end of the year and we say we have a larger expenditure, we can deposit up to 2% of the budget in that non-lapsing fund. And if you look, it's the last line of our budget. We've only used it, Kathy, twice in the past 20 years.
We can't put grant money in it, so the grant money's gotta go to the town.
So this money all has to go back to the town?
Usually, that money that comes in, we can't accept it. So when we're doing our budget, they might give us some credit for it, or it can help with them increasing their fund that they have in the town.
But we can't set that aside in that.
We could,
Fund.
no, let's see. We would have to review that now. Oh, I know, a good example. We had the gym HVAC done, and we're applying for a $10,000 rebate. So we might be able to ask the town, could we use that money to offset some of the HVAC that we're doing? And that's how we got the money for the, for replacing all of the HVAC projects, because we applied for a grant. There was $140,000 that the town set aside, and the town said, you can use that $140,000. So that's what we use for the special services and for the kindergartens and for the central office.
But we have to ask the town to put it in.
But if we go through, and let's say we have an outplacement that leaves a school district, and we have that large tuition that came available, and we have a project coming up, then the board could request the town to put up to 2% of the budget into that non-lapsing fund for a specific project.
But this is just putting a policy in place for what we've already been doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It impacts some other towns where they have a finance committee that kind of determines like where they're gonna put it. That's what I understand, like feedback from other towns, where they have some say, like Griswold, for instance, that was able to say, no, you may not accept new people because you don't have the money for it or something. I mean, obviously that's a different example, but sometimes there's oversight of how all that is allocated. And this actually gives more power to the school. So and I guess if you miss budget like tremendously and you have all this extra funds, you don't have to, you can carry it over is what I'm thinking, but we don't operate that way, so.
We have a good relationship with our town government, which is probably why, I mean, there are other towns where, and you can read the paper, right? And I'm sure they're much more in tune with this sort of thing than we ever would be.
And a larger budget number to set aside 2% becomes a bigger deal.
Adversarial relationships,
But I think it's good to have a policy on that.
So do we want to just pass that now?
So
You wanna
the
have
question is
a
basically if we want
policy
to
in
have a
place.
policy.
right? Is that our interest, best
Right,
interest
a
to have
policy
something to
for what
start
we're
with?
already doing.
A starting point.
Like,
It's not mandated.
I'll make a
It's not
motion if you all
mandated.
feel good about it
Okay.
for this meeting.
I'll second.
That's what it says, yeah.
Sure. Just in case we ever
Motion.
don't have a good relationship, I guess.
Yeah. Val
This is
did
what we're
the
doing.
second.
Yeah.
We vote.
Any
yeah,
discussion?
Kristen Bell.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None heard, motion carries.
It's easier on here.
There goes the short ones. The indoor air quality in district facilities. So we just have, we have this policy, but they just made changes and they're italicized. So I didn't really have.
It's about that they have to do annual inspections and it has to be posted on the school website and given to the board, which Brian did do a few months ago.
Brian's in charge of all this.
He's aware of it.
Yeah, they did, they had to do their whole checklist and that's required regardless. This is just kind of a,
Updating our policies.
yeah, a policy showing that it's required, I assume. Because, yeah, he had this whole checklist for us. As long as we're comfortable with this being, he looked at it and.
Yeah, I mean.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard, motion passes.
Moving along.
All right. So, sexual harassment, Title IX, again, policy.
Yeah, goes hand in hand with the non-discrimination one.
Right.
State changes.
Dee Dee, did this policy say anything about that training that we had to do?
That, I asked Cave about that.
Yeah.
That's in a different, the training is noted in a different policy. They said
Okay.
this one replaces it, and
Okay.
this one says the training is as it, it's only with initially and
Initial
then
hire
done,
and everybody
you
has
know,
to do
in the
For
school.
your whole
can
entire
do-
life, 2 hours.
Yeah, the 2
Yeah,
hour.
and the-
Yeah.
6 hours.
Interactive, 2 hour interactive.
You have to use
session.
Vector, it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yep,
Yeah.
but,
But once you do it once, then it's done. It's just,
so that one is now.
okay.
So we're up to date.
Up to
That's
the-
what you're saying.
I did make a note on, you probably already have a note on this. Under, I'm trying to figure out what page it is. You have to include a link.
Okay.
You're not gonna be able to see this. It's at the top where it has, the Voluntown Public School District's non-discrimination policy and grievance procedures. It's like the
Can be
1, 2, 3, 4th
located.
page in.
Does it say
This one.
policy?
Can be located, and it says include a link.
So page.
This is the
G.
back, this is.
Oh, yeah, page G,
G.
that would have been helpful to tell you.
Yeah.
You have to put the links in there.
Okay.
And then like
Yep,
insert
yep.
the website
Thank
address.
you.
You're welcome.
I think, Dee Dee, we've updated our website quite a bit in the
Yes.
past years with all this, like,
I was
it
gonna
just
say, I know
refreshed
we
my
did
memory, I can
some,
go back on it.
oh,
and look
I
at
see
it.
what you're
I
saying.
know we have a lot of it on the board.
Yeah.
With that change, do we?
You are Title IX?
Rachel. Rachel's not who, yeah.
Okay, I saw that somewhere.
Yeah, she's listed.
I think you guys voted for it.
I'll make a motion to approve this as amended. The
Second.
inclusion of a link.
We have policy, the regulations part of it too.
Yeah, there's right.
It's all baked into one.
Right, it's all
Form.
one huge.
Okay, yeah, just want to make sure I wasn't missing.
So most of it is already existing.
Oh, that's right, it's on a process, okay.
Form
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table, correct?
Yeah.
No further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None heard, motion passes. Okay. Security check, fingerprinting, criminal justice information.
Just adding more information that they changed the whole regulation layout. And added.
Yep. How does it, I'm sorry, no, Amy, does this change kind of your procedure at all, or how you like fingerprinted?
Yeah.
So is this just taking out the school nurse and just making a note that it's everybody?
That, and it also incorporated the CHRI checks. And also, there's certain state organizations that need to be listed, like, if this happens, you have to contact this agency, or this one, this agency. And what's again, it kind of ties into that one we did a few months back, that we had Mike read through on the criminal history thing. This is just another policy relating to similar stuff, but more security fingerprinting. I don't know.
We want to table it, we want, like, to have a final look at it, or? I know, it's first reading.
No, they all have to do it, regardless.
It's a regulation, sorry, yeah.
It is what it is.
I'll make a motion.
We can't change it, so, all right, all in favor? Aye.
So,
I'm sorry. Discussion,
so Dee Dee, this is saying a DCF form that we do and a criminal background check? That's what this is saying?
What page are you looking at?
Well, I just read like here and it said, it's saying, okay, like for example, student teachers
This relates to certified.
required to undergo the same
certified.
criminal background checks and DCF child abuse and neglect registry check.
Isn't that what it's done?
That's the fingerprint, the criminal background check is a fingerprint. Right, it's not something separate, right? Okay, I just want to be clear when.
Yeah, when they run fingerprints.
Fingerprint is
that counts as
the
a-
background check.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's just, okay.
Imagine if you have a criminal record.
Yeah.
they run
You
fingerprints.
run your fingerprint, okay, I was thinking it was a separate form, I'm like, can we have another form, like, what is this?
No,
I
probably
think-
pop it
I
up
think-
on that Department of Children and Families.
Yeah, and then we do that one.
Okay, now that that discussion's passed, motion passes. So it was, who said that? It was Kathy and
Yeah, Chris and Kathy.
Okay.
That was better than I thought, Mike.
So we want to light ones next month. because
All right, I'll think
we
about
went
it.
through
By the
all
time
these-
Dee Dee retires, she's gonna have all these policies up to date, you guys might not be here, but she will make sure that they're all done.
I already have more.
FMLA is the first reading, is the last one for the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a couple questions on this one, so. And we might have to go to second reading on this one. So at the bottom of that, it talks about, for the purposes of this policy, a paraeducator, and defines that. And then an instructional employee is defined as, right, a certified teacher. Usually the FMLA goes by hours.
Right. The big change in this was that it used to be, to qualify for it, was 1,250 hours worked annually. During 12 months. But now they dropped it to 950.
Right.
That was one.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you're a paraeducator or a teacher or a custodian. If you work the hours, you're eligible for the FMLA. So
I don't know.
I am curious why they have that paragraph in there.
Right.
The other thing is the policy doesn't talk anywhere about it running, FMLA running concurrently with other leaves. So like workers' comp, if Connecticut paid leave, because I think some of your non-certifieds, right, participate with Connecticut paid leave.
Yeah.
So we need
They
the
can
policy
take
to
that.
indicate that it runs concurrently
Right.
with all other leaves.
Okay. I can look
It
at
also
that.
doesn't talk about, and again, this is something that we would potentially have to look at the contracts for, but usually the policies talk about the use of paid time, like vacation, sick time, and give some guidance on that, and also guidance on paying for benefits. when they return, so.
Right.
Again, some of that stuff might be in some of the contracts, but you do have employees that are not covered by contracts.
Yeah, is this the appropriate place to put it, or is it like a
Generally,
more
this is
handbook?
where it would be,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
your FMLA policy, generally.
Also, we usually
Unless
have
we
a
have-
contract, we usually have.
Correct, so for your,
But it
right,
would be in both, you're saying, usually, you could
well,
have.
because you have employees that are not covered by the contracts, so
Right.
this would be where they move on.
Non-certified, okay.
I can throw
But
that
even-
question out to Cade and see what they come
Yeah,
back
even,
with.
but even things like running concurrently, we would still want it in here.
Do they usually
As our
run
general-
workman's comp with your FMLAs?
We have to put you on FMLA, even if we know you have a serious medical condition or a family member, we legally have to put you on FMLA because it's job protection. So even if the employee's like, no, I don't want to, technically,
Even if they're on comp?
correct.
Oh, we don't do
Serious
that,
medical
Ryan.
condition, any serious medical condition of your family member. Now, if their contract states otherwise, then that's kind of a different conversation, but this policy is mostly gonna cover people that aren't covered by a contract.
Okay, so we will look into
So
that.
she had 3 points, guidance on sick leave, benefits,
Paid
right,
sick
payment
leave,
into benefits,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And then
It also concur,
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
yep.
I know most private sector companies make you exhaust all of your
yeah,
time
And we
before.
have to allow them to use paid leave. If they wanted to use vacation time, we can't say, no, you can't use your vacation time or your sick time or whatnot. But with the teachers' contracts, and like, we'd have to understand a little bit, is it covered in the contract or is it covered in the policy? But either way, we're gonna want it in there for.
We'll have the lawyer here pretty
Yeah,
next week to.
that's a lawyer question.
Yeah, so it does talk about, we will continue to pay our portion and they have to continue to pay their portion. Failure to do so would result in a loss of coverage and we're not returning to work. But, are we having them give us a check while they're out? Are they making it up when they get back? Right, so, just some questions.
That's never a good idea because there's no provision where you can force people to pay anything back. And there's companies that they'll offer, if you sign a contract, they'll train you and get you this. But the reality of the situation is if the person leaves the day after the training's over,
Yeah.
that's that. You can never recoup that.
Yeah, okay, you can't.
Okay. Good questions. All right, item number 7 is personnel. We have a para resignation letter. It's Brianna Merchant as paraeducator. And we have a motion to accept the resignation from Brianna Merchant as paraeducator
Motion?
with regrets.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None heard. We thank Brianna for her time with us and wish her the best in her new endeavors. And you're looking for another one, correct? Yes. We're looking, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Is there any specific concern about is it lower grades or?
I'm looking for somebody for preschool, and that comes with a very intricate kind of thing. You need 12 credits. In early childhood, essentially, so it'd be a great position for somebody who wants to go to school or, has graduated high school and is in a program, wants to be a teacher, something like that.
Okay.
Good luck.
All right, school medical advisor for 24-25, Dr. Geller.
yes,
Motion.
just a motion to send him a letter stating that he was authorized by the board.
Motion? Motion?
All right, I have a motion to approve Dr. Geller as 24-25 school medical advisor. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None heard. Motion passes. Okay, memorandum of understanding between the WASB and BOE. So that is our standing agreement with the WASB, correct?
YSB does fantastic work. The quality of programs is somewhat astounding.
Motion? Yeah, well, just a motion to
Continue
approve
your relationship with WSD.
I'll make that
memorandum of
motion.
understanding, yes. So it's not that we would, it's just that we, we signed this.
Okay.
We love the WASB, but it's not favor.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion passes. Okay, and last but not least, cell phones and personal technology. So, I don't know, we do have a policy on this, so.
You just did update this in
I was gonna
December.
say,
Yeah.
I think it just came about after CABE
Oh,
made
okay,
some,
okay.
had like an not CABE, the governor announcement about cell phone use and policy. Yeah.
It was, and so, yeah.
Going to make us buy walking bags pretty soon, which,
You know, I did take out a little snippet from the thing, because I was quite curious what I was gonna share this with teenagers, really. But, for anybody that cares over there.
What, about what? Those are high school people, they care a lot about cell phones.
Exactly.
Just like, we haven't talked about policy in our school, so.
Evidence suggests that cell phone use in the classroom impacts students' ability to focus on academics, results in loss of dedicated attention to learning. A recent study found that cell phone use during school hours is universal, with 97% of students reporting that they use their phones during the school day for a median time of 43 minutes. Participants reported receiving a median of 237 notifications per day, with 25% of those received during the school day. Additionally, 72% of high school teachers reported that cell phone use is a major problem, compared to 33% of middle school teachers and 6% of elementary school teachers.
those are interesting figures.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty factual, from their
Yeah,
space.
probably on the light side.
Yeah, especially the notifications, even if you're just, it's on you, you're just feeling that buzz, you're feeling that.
I don't think they understand the power they have with one of these, and I mean, think of what we went through in school, and with, my goodness, it's
But our
amazing now.
policy is pretty, strict, and
I will say,
it's,
knock on wood, our parents are very supportive too, and we very minimally have a problem with cell phone use, because we don't allow it. So, and they, kids think it's a privilege when they're in 8th grade and they're allowed to bring them in, once in a while, you let them, have it, and then the one mistake happens and they go away for 6 weeks or so, so it is hard because we're balancing, what they live with every day, and then they come to a building where they can't have it all. That's hard. That would be hard for me, like, but we're very lucky here. I feel like it's, pretty controlled. But you have a high schooler, you guys have high schoolers, they text you from school, like, what, are we in a reading class right now? Are you messaging? Or from their computer, I'm like, Mom,
Can you buy me a Gatorade after school?
yeah, what's grandma doing? I know. How am I supposed to know what grandma's doing, and what grandma's
Mom,
doing?
what's your Amazon Prime password?
Yeah.
I know
Why?
it's a magnet at the back of each classroom door, they gotta put their phones in there.
Yeah.
And they lose it for 2 weeks use in the school if that phone is going off while it's in there
Really?
and stuff. So they can use it at lunch, they can use it after school, before school, but not.
Yeah.
but
And there
they-
is that leeway in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, I'm not in high school, but like, that, they are verging adulthood, right? Like, I don't know how you really control that in high school. You have a big school, like, I don't know.
I don't think they should have them for recess, I mean, I imagine
No.
they don't, but,
We take them outside, go outside and play.
yeah.
The hard part is that they're struggling after leaving high school and getting into adulthood, right? So people that work for my husband struggle with keeping their cell phones away at work, and they're being asked to not come back because they spent more time texting than doing their job, or more time playing video games on their cell phone. So us allowing them to have it throughout the school day and fostering that really bad behavior is continuing into adulthood, and you have these adults that can't hold down a job because they're on their cell phone, social media, all of that, more than they are actually doing their job.
Earbuds are huge too. Younger employees, you constantly, can you even hear what I'm saying?
You go by people and they're talking away and you're thinking, in another time, you would be considered schizophrenic or something. Just talking to yourself.
Just need to break the tie now.
So you guys have you're no phone.
We are no phone during.
Yours is hard, you're
last
outside.
time.
Oh, we have I don't know what phone, I don't know what policy we have. We don't have.
No, it's
Well, the
a
challenge with
teacher.
NFA is you don't have lockers that kids can put it in.
Right.
They're gonna have
It's
to
a
have
teacher, so like one
Off
teacher
your
will be like,
phones,
no
your
phone.
phones.
The next one's gonna be like, I was.
you have your calculator or whatever.
Use it, right.
But I could imagine us, like, and I think of NFA, I mean, I have a cell phone when I was at NFA, it's in my backpack because I don't have a
Yeah.
locker, I don't have anywhere to literally put it, right?
I haven't done it
I don't
this-
have.
That's why
I had to put mine back together again. The funniest thing is, there was an extra letter. I said, where did this go? I just stuck it in the inside.
You have those tiny letters in there.
Those kids frontal lobe, their attention.
Yeah. Look at all the research
divided
on it, the
attention.
dopamine addiction.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I think it's
even for us as
spelled
adults.
Or, yeah.
Middle initial?
I'm like,
What?
correctly. There's a little-
I was Googling, who is this? I'm like, I know I've seen him before. Where is-
Well, it's just, I think it's evident that like, they came out with data that they're obviously understand it's a problem. People have been beating down their doors saying, you need to come out with some guidance because it's clearly, it's an epidemic and it's only gonna get worse, and things like that. So schools are taking these choices, they're going kind of rogue in their decisions of how they're gonna do it. In NFA, I know like some teachers will just put like a bowl and say, put your cell phone in there with it off, whatever, and under they put it on their desk, but it's.
There is some growing data of schools that have banned them. The scores are going substantially up. Kids are, now they have to pay attention. They can't be distracted. And during the school day. There was some profile on TV about that.
I think we've gone so far one way with technology that now we need to push it back a little bit the other way. My kids come in with Chromebooks, like, this is math class, we use paper, pens, throw those things away. And we're gonna do some math out without any technology, other than maybe a calculator. I feel generous that day, but.
I suspect Dee Dee will be giving us a state regulation in a few minutes about cell phones, because it is, in the cities, they're having a heck of a time with it. They're trying all sorts of solutions. And they're going to mandate a solution for the cities, but include everybody, and we'll be spending money on those locking bags that we can't afford.
Okay, food for thought, I guess, and obviously it's on our top of mind.
So we're not letting them use them in the classroom at all?
We never have,
Yeah.
essentially. I mean, and there are projects that you might do,
Yeah.
and somebody might say, bring your phone down. We sometimes do like Mrs. Wallman, she does like the picture project, like she lets them use their phone, take pictures. But that's like an 8th grade class. We're 5th graders are not doing that project. So it's not, that's like 8th grade, you're on the verge of going to be freshmen, right? But
The only thing I thought, it's totally like random, but it's just something about like no, photos being taken in inappropriate places. If videos is something that we need to kind of update, it just says photos versus, maybe it's ubiquitous, but I just think like just what goes home to the parents and in the handbook, we just have to say that too, videos.
photo, video recording, sometimes they have the watches, and we say no watches either, because that could be an invasion of privacy if that is connected to somebody in a classroom, and your kids are in a classroom, and that's an invasion of privacy of what happens in that classroom, so absolutely none of that either.
They make glasses that record. You
I
see
know.
ads for them in magazines. It's unbelievable what's available.
The upcoming board meeting is October 10th,
Yeah.
so you have that date. And then we have just the standard updates that we reviewed tonight. And I think that's about it. We'll have the staff come in on, the new staff will come in.
Yeah.
Any other guests that we thought? No? Okay. No high schools? No, nothing?
Yeah, we should start those early. It takes us a long time to do those.
And we've
Through the
punted
year.
them for quite some
It
time.
would be better if more in January.
Yeah, like when it's
February,
kind of-
Before we're into budget
Yeah.
season and when they come and do our
Yeah, because it's a long one.
presentation. And
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Do we need a motion to move to executive session?
we,
we need that.
thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you
everyone.
guys.
Good night.
Thank
Do, so I think we have a few things to review with Adam.
But I can't remember.
We need a motion to invite him. We have
Okay,
recent a motion to invite Mr. Burrows into the executive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you, Lloyd, appreciate it.
Take care.